Did I do well in predictions last week after going 15-1 in week 18? No. But did I get the Packers game right? Yes. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. You only got the Packers game right because you always pick the Packers. That's a fair point, Grossi. And today we are going to be breaking down and predicting all 4 of the Divisional Round playoff games, and oh, we got some good ones ahead of us, folks. Before we get to that, last week I went an even 3-3, and the thing that I'm most pissed about is I was gonna pick the Texans, but I didn't, and now I am suffering for it. That brings me to 180-99 on the season. So, can I prevent going to 100 games wrong this season? Probably not, but we're gonna try. Starting off in the AFC on Saturday afternoon, you got the Houston Texans, Strouds, taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Texans shocking the world, defeating the Cleveland Browns this past Saturday. And it wasn't the fact that they just beat the Browns. It was the way they did it. That first half was super duper competitive, and then that second half, it was all Texans. The defense, of course, you had the pick sixes, CJ Stroud looking amazing, Nico Collins having a day, and the Texans were just firing on all cylinders. And of course, we've talked about this a lot. They have had a phenomenal season. Talk about these teams that have house money. I, of course, mention the Packers all the time. But you look at the Texans, a team that has kind of been in this rut for the past few years. Of course, they had the Deshaun Watson situation. They finally get rid of him. They go and they draft their QB of the future, or at the time, who they hope to be the QB of the future. They go and get Will Anderson in an aggressive move, and look how well it paid off. D'Amico Ryans, who they signed in the offseason, seems to be the perfect coach for Houston. And not only did they win the division, but they just won a playoff game against the Cleveland Browns, who had one of the best defenses in the league. So yeah, they're playing pretty well. They're taking on the Baltimore Ravens, the 1 seed in the AFC and probably the best team in the NFL. And I'm sure the Ravens are very happy they're taking on the Texans, and that's no disrespect to the Texans. They're just happy that the Texans beat the crap out of the Browns.
That's awesome. So you'll be like, Hadouken!
Yeah, you got the Hadoukens coming up?
Hadouken! Sub-Zero! Hadouken!
Oh, Hadouken!
I'm Electric Blanca Sub-Zero!
But Lamar Jackson has been playing fantastic football this year, and it took a while for the media to kind of catch up, but he's been having an MVP-like year. I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up winning MVP. And this Ravens team, as I said on Power Rankings, is just different. Their offense is firing on all cylinders because they finally got some wide receivers. Their defense is looking phenomenal. And this is already after they've gone through a litany of injuries. They're going to have some of the best home field advantage because playing in Baltimore is going to be a time. That crowd's going to be insane. You have to deal with the weather. And the Texans, who usually play inside, maybe that's going to play a small factor. However, I do think the Texans are going to be well prepared for this game. I think it's going to be a close game. And it'll also be an indicator of how close the Texans are with the best of the best that this league has to offer. And I think it's going to be a really fun one. And as we've been talking about, the Texans, they have nothing to lose, and that can make a team very dangerous. However, I am going to go with the Baltimore Ravens here. I do think that the defense is going to be able to keep the Texans a bit in check, but more importantly, I think that Lamar Jackson and that Ravens offense is going to be able to move the ball against the Texans defense. I don't see Lamar making the same mistakes that Joe Flacco did, and because of that, I am going to roll with the Ravens, getting the win, punching their ticket to the AFC Championship game, and for the Texans/Strouds, your future is very, very bright. Then you got the Green Bay mother-loving Packers taking on the San Francisco 49ers again.
I don't fear you.
Then you will die braver than most.
The Packers knocking the pants off the Cowboys on Sunday, getting off to a 27-0 lead, and I know the score was a little bit closer than that entire game was at the end, but damn, what a performance by the Packers. Joe Barry's defense doing an excellent job containing Dak, CeeDee Lamb. On top of that, we have to be praising the offense. Finally got to see what Jordan Love would look like with all of his weapons, and he did not disappoint. Aaron Jones, 3 touchdowns. Dontavian Wicks having a touchdown. Romeo Doubs having a phenomenal game. And I said this a couple times now throughout this week. The fact that Jaden Reed and Christian Watson really didn't do a whole lot in the game in terms of production, it's phenomenal, because that means look how many damn weapons they have. Whether it's Jaden Reed one week, or Romeo Doubs the next, or Christian Watson the next, or Luke Musgrave, or Tucker Kraft. The offensive talent on this team is deep. And taking a look at the Packers right now, I think they're a team that not a lot of teams want to play. They're going to be taking on the 49ers, who are the 1 seed in the NFC, had a whole bunch of rest, basically 2 weeks of rest since they sat the majority of their starters in week 18. And they are going to be very well prepared for the Packers, as they already started planning for Green Bay in the second quarter of that Dallas game. And of course, the 49ers, they've had the Packers number in the playoffs. They are 4-0 against the Packers when they had Aaron Rodgers in the postseason. But now, there is no more Aaron Rodgers. There is Jordan Love and that offense, and I think there's a decent possibility that you see a different outcome. However, I also have to be very realistic here, because the 49ers are a very good football team. And when it comes to the 49ers, what makes them so dangerous is, of course, all the skill players they have on the offensive side of the ball. Brock Purdy's had a really great season. CMC is amazing. Deebo Samuel's great. Brandon Ayuk has had the season that 49ers fans have wanted for a long time. And the defense, that's nothing to shrug your shoulders at either. Of course, you have Bosa, but the addition of Chase Young, and of course, you have a great linebacker core. It is going to be tough for the Packers to win. I think if the Packers are going to get the W here, they are going to have to get after Brock Purdy even more so than they got after Dak. In addition, they are going to have to either run the ball with Aaron Jones, and if the 49ers pick that up, they are going to need to rely on some of their youngest players at wide receiver and tight end to get the job done. So I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a challenging game, and you know who I'm going to pick, because I do think that there is a chance. I'm not going to get cocky or excited, but I think that maybe the Packers could rewrite some history and defeat the San Francisco 49ers, which would put them in the NFC Championship game, which would be incredible. And again, I have to admit, this is going to probably be the toughest test that the Packers are going to play in the postseason. I have had an amazing time this season just to see Jordan Love's ebbs and flows, like even in the lows, saying, hey, you got to have some patience, and look what happened now. And even Joe Barry's having a bit of a redemption arc. And I'll say it right here. If the Packers beat the 49ers, Joe Barry, you could stay. And I apologize, because then I was wrong. Even though those defenses were really, really bad and they deserve to get called out. Listen, Joe, let's go beat the 49ers. Packers win.
You heard it from a fan right here.
Following that, you got another NFC matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions. The Buccaneers shocking everybody except Eagles fans, because they've watched their team all year on Monday night, just coming out rocking. And Baker Mayfield, he has got to be on cloud 9 after winning the division, a playoff game, and his old team, the Cleveland Browns, got removed from the playoffs the same weekend.
I finally rest and watch the sunrise on a grateful universe.
And I mentioned this on Power Rankings, that the majority of the media is talking about the Eagles losing. And I get it, as I talked about yesterday, that it makes sense. They just went to the Super Bowl. This was a collapse of epic proportions. But the Buccaneers deserve a lot of credit. They made Jalen Hurts very uncomfortable. The Eagles offense really couldn't do much except Devontae Smith. And of course, Baker Mayfield played his ass off, and that's even with receivers dropping the ball. The Buccaneers came in with a ton of intensity, and it showed, especially compared to what you saw with the Eagles. They're going to be taking on the Detroit Lions, who got their first playoff win in over 30 years against the LA Rams on Sunday night. And it was just a crazy moment for the team, for the fan base, and for the city of Detroit. And for that, I'm really happy for them. I did pick the Rams to win because I thought that they might have been a little bit of a better team, and at times the Rams outplayed them. However, the Lions stepped up when they needed to. Their offense was good. Their defense made some key stops, and because of that, they are now hosting another playoff game, and it is going to be highly anticipated. I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Lions definitely have an advantage here, not just because of home field advantage, but I do think they are a little bit better of a team because the Buccaneers, similar to the Texans and the Packers, who expected them to be here? Not a lot of people thought they'd have a winning record, let alone winning the division and winning a playoff game. So for the Buccaneers, they're another team where they have nothing to lose. For the Lions, they did what they set out to do. They won the division and they won a playoff game. And so from here on out, they are looking towards the Super Bowl because they have what you could argue is the easiest path right now to at least get to the NFC Championship game. And with that, I imagine they do. I think the Lions match up pretty well against the Buccaneers, but I do imagine a close game again. I am going to give the nod to Detroit. I think they're going to do just enough on offense to get the job done, though I do worry about the pass rush a little bit of the Buccaneers getting after Jared Goff and kind of disrupting that offense. But overall, I think Detroit has a great shot to make it to the title game. And from there, we'll see if they're playing the 49ers or they're hosting against the Green Bay Packers. And finally, on Sunday Night Football, you got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Buffalo Bills. Here we are again, folks. And this matchup, oh, I got a lot of feelings about it. And I'm sure Buffalo fans have a lot of feelings about it too, remembering their previous encounters in the playoffs.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sir?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss.
Yeah, they lost a lot from that coin toss. But the Chiefs defeating the Miami Dolphins on Saturday night in frigid temperatures, showing off that defense and how freaking good it is. The Miami Dolphins couldn't do anything on offense except one bomb to Tyreek Hill. And of course, their offense was able to efficiently move the ball in those conditions. Patrick Mahomes played mistake-free football. And on top of that, Rashee Rice looking pretty darn good. And they are going to need to be firing on all cylinders against these Buffalo Bills. The Bills knocking off the Steelers in what looked to be a blowout. The Steelers did wind up catching up at the end, but Khalil Shakir just got it done. And now the Bills play the Chiefs, but they're hosting them in Buffalo. And I know Bills fans have been waiting for this for a long, long time. This is a great rivalry, and I know if there is any team that the Bills want to beat in the postseason, it's Kansas City. And I think this one is going to be a great game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a really low-scoring game. I think the defense of the Chiefs is really damn good. You look at McDuffie, you look at Snead. They have done a great job this year, and I think they're going to be able to contain whatever Buffalo's offense throws at them. And at the same time, even though Buffalo's defense is a bit banged up right now, the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs hasn't been at the level of what we're used to. That doesn't mean that Patrick Mahomes can't take over a game, or Rashee Rice or Isaiah Pacheco can't have a great game, but I think with home field advantage, and if the Bills are able to get James Cook involved, whether it's on the ground or it's in the receiving game, I think the Bills have a really good shot at winning this game. I see this going down to the wire. Hell, maybe it will go into overtime again. And my gut, I'm not going to lie, is saying to pick the Chiefs. However, I'm going to say after the crazy season they've been through, where lots of people, including myself, didn't even think Buffalo was going to make it into the postseason, I think Buffalo finally exercises those demons, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs, punching their ticket to the AFC Championship game, where if these results are correct, they are going to be taking on the Baltimore Ravens. And either way, it's going to be a hell of a weekend. It's going to be a hell of a Sunday night game. But for right now, it's Buffalo.
Buffalo all the way this time!
But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who do you got winning these 4 games? And folks, we only got 6 games left until the Super Bowl, so frickin' frackin' enjoy it, because football is almost leaving us. I promise I wouldn't cry. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. You guys saw me at Tom Grossi Comedy, all social media you see down below. A big shout out to all the patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.